Long before billionaires became household names, one man stood above them all, John D. Rockefeller. His methods were ruthless, his fortune unrivaled, and his influence? Let's just say he reshaped American laws forever. But how did a boy with nothing rise to control everything? This is the untold story of the world's first billionaire. Rise from poverty. Rockefeller entered this world in 1839 in Richford, New York. His father, William Avery Rockefeller, was a traveling salesman and occasional con artist. But by no means was he the kind of dad who would read bedtime stories. Instead, he left his family for long periods, leaving young John to manage the household alongside his mother, Eliza. Eliza was the polar opposite of her husband, devout, disciplined, and determined to instill these values in her children. Rockefeller often credited his mother's influence for shaping his moral compass, though some might argue that moral is a generous term for what he later became. Early entrepreneurial spirit. From an early age, Rockefeller showed a knack for numbers and a mind for business. While other kids were playing, he was making deals, starting small ventures like raising turkeys and selling candy to neighbors. At just 12 years old, he saved $50, a considerable amount in those days, and lent it at interest. That small act hinted at the financial genius he would become. At the age of 16, in 1855, Rockefeller secured his first job as an assistant bookkeeper at Hewitt & Tuttle, a small produce commission firm in Cleveland, Ohio. His starting salary was $16 a month. In this role, he was responsible for tracking finances, negotiating with transportation companies, and managing various business transactions. By 1859, at the age of 20, Rockefeller ventured into his own business. He partnered with Morris B. Clark to establish Clark & Rockefeller, a commission merchant business dealing in hay, grain, meats, and other goods. They started with a capital of $4,000, a significant sum at the time. The business proved profitable, especially during the Civil War, when the demand for commodities surged. Are you a business owner looking for funding, but tired of jumping through hoops with big banks? Let me introduce you to the 7-Figure Scale Kit Funding Guide, your step-by-step roadmap to securing up to $250,000 in 0% APR capital, no matter if you're just starting out or already established. Here's what's inside: SBA Blueprint to access SBA funds hassle-free, the $200,000 case study showcasing real funding success stories, AI secrets to automate your REI properties efficiently, and access to the 7-Figure Discord, thriving community of entrepreneurs growing together. No more outdated strategies, no more wasted time, and no more funding headaches. I've helped hundreds of business owners just like you get the capital they need to scale fast. This guide is normally $197, but today it's yours for just $7. Click the link in description to get it now. The birth of Standard Oil. In the mid-19th century, the oil industry was like the Wild West, unpredictable and full of opportunity. John, however, saw a chance to bring order to this chaos. So in 1863, he teamed up with partners Maurice B. Clark and Samuel Andrews to start an oil refining business in Cleveland. This city was a strategic choice because it had good access to railroads and waterways, making it easier to transport oil products. After a couple of years, in 1865, Rockefeller bought out Clark's share of the business. Then, in 1867, he brought in Henry M. Flagler as a partner. Together, they formed the firm Rockefeller, Andrews, and Flagler, which quickly became one of the largest oil refineries in the area. By 1870, Rockefeller and his partners decided to take things to the next level. They incorporated their business as the Standard Oil Company in Ohio. The name Standard was deliberately chosen to reflect their commitment to producing consistent and reliable oil products in an industry plagued by inconsistency and low-quality offerings. But Rockefeller's vision went beyond refining oil. He now aimed to control every stage of the process, from production to distribution, a strategy known as vertical integration. By doing so, they could minimize costs, improve efficiency, and gain a significant competitive advantage. One key tactic that set Standard Oil apart was its ability to negotiate favorable deals with railroads. Rockefeller secured rebates, special discounts on shipping rates, which gave Standard Oil a major cost advantage over competitors. These secret arrangements allowed the company to lower its prices further, making it nearly impossible for others to compete and ultimately driving many of them out of business. And when that wasn't enough, Rockefeller's company would temporarily even slash prices in a competitor's market to unsustainable levels, forcing the rival to either shut down or sell out at a bargain price. Fair? Not exactly. Effective? Absolutely. By the late 1870s, Standard Oil controlled about 90% of the oil refining capacity in the United States. John D. Rockefeller had already conquered the oil industry, but he wasn't ready to stop there. As the steel industry began to define modern America, Rockefeller saw another opportunity. Steel relied on iron ore, and Rockefeller set his sights on controlling this critical resource. In Minnesota's Mesabi Range, home to some of the richest iron ore deposits in the country, Rockefeller secured substantial stakes. He also built the infrastructure needed to transport the ore, including railroads and shipping lines, just like he had with oil. Around the same time, Andrew Carnegie was rising as the undisputed king of steel. Carnegie had built an empire that relied heavily on raw materials like iron ore to feed his mills. But there was a problem. Rockefeller now controlled a significant portion of the Mesabi Range, the very resource Carnegie needed to maintain his dominance. The situation was tense. Carnegie was no stranger to fierce competition, and Rockefeller wasn't one to back down. Their rivalry could have turned into a full-blown battle, but both men were too smart for that. They knew a prolonged conflict would cost them both dearly. So, they negotiated. But this wasn't the end of the story. A new player was about to enter the scene, J.P. Morgan. Morgan wasn't an industrialist like Rockefeller or Carnegie. He was a financier, a man who saw industries not as empires but as puzzles to be solved and consolidated. Morgan looked at the steel industry and saw inefficiency. Too many players, too much competition, and too many wasted resources. He had a vision to unite it all under one giant corporation, creating stability and, of course, massive profits. To make this happen, Morgan set his sights on Carnegie Steel, the crown jewel of the industry. Carnegie had long dominated steel production, but he was ready to sell at the right price. In 1901, Morgan bought Carnegie Steel for $480 million, a deal so massive it made Carnegie one of the richest men in the world. But Morgan wasn't just buying Carnegie's company. He was building something bigger, U.S. Steel, the first billion-dollar corporation in history. Rockefeller's role in this was crucial. Morgan needed more than just steel mills to make U.S. Steel the powerhouse he envisioned. He needed raw materials and the infrastructure to move them. That's where Rockefeller came in. His control over the Mesabi Range and his transportation networks were essential pieces of the puzzle. Negotiations followed, and Rockefeller struck a deal to sell his iron ore interests and assets in exchange for stock in the new corporation. Controversy and rivalries. Of course, such power didn't come without enemies. Rockefeller's aggressive tactics earned him a reputation as the embodiment of corporate greed. Rival tycoons openly despised him, and the press painted him as a villain. Even U.S. presidents like Theodore Roosevelt viewed Standard Oil as a threat to democracy itself. The public wasn't entirely wrong. Standard Oil's dominance stifled competition, drove smaller businesses into bankruptcy, and exploited workers. It wasn't until 1911 that the U.S. government stepped in, breaking up Standard Oil into smaller companies under antitrust laws. Ironically, this only made Rockefeller richer as he held shares in each of the new companies. Talk about landing on your feet. Wealth beyond measure, adjusted for inflation, Rockefeller's wealth is estimated at around $400 billion. Early in his career, he had used it to dominate industries and influence politics. Later in life, however, he took an unexpected turn. Rockefeller established the Rockefeller Foundation, which financed groundbreaking work in medicine, education, and public health. His contributions led to major advancements, including the near eradication of diseases like yellow fever and hookworm in certain areas. He also played a role in transforming the University of Chicago into a globally respected institution for higher education and research. By the time he passed away in 1937, Rockefeller had donated more than $500 million, a mind-boggling amount for the era. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more fascinating stories, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.